Hey guys, tonight we slip back into a late summer evening in 1972 where the air smells like freshly cut grass, your knuckles are scraped from riding that rusty Schwinn too fast down gravel roads, and the only thing that matters is whether Rachel, Martin shows up at the lake before sunset. You probably won't survive this one with your tear ducts intact. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is over there. I always love seeing the global bedtime crew show up. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're 17. The town is small enough that everyone knows where you buy your groceries, but big enough that the football team still gets its own float in the 4th of July parade. You work weekends changing oil at your uncle's shop. Your parents call it character building, though you're not entirely convinced you need character when all you want is to save up for a half-decent stereo system. Rachel Martin is in your history class and she wears her hair in a braid with a ribbon like she stepped out of an old Norman Rockwell painting. She reads Sylvia Plath voluntarily. She's the kind of girl who sings in public if a good song comes on, and once brought you a sandwich from home because, in her words, you chew like someone who forgot to pack a lunch. That was the first time she smiled at you, and, like a sucker, you've been chewing nervously ever since. By July, you two are inseparable. You ride your bikes down past the edge of town where the railroad doesn't run anymore and the trees start thickening like they're trying to keep secrets. There's a lake out there, technically more of a pond, but Rachel calls it our lake, and so it is. She brings peanut butter sandwiches and grape soda. You bring cassette tapes of the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel. You lie side by side on a sun-warmed dock with splinters in your elbows and no sunscreen in sight. Fun fact: ancient Egyptians once used crocodile dung as sunblock. You decide Rachel smells slightly better. "This is what forever feels like," she says once, eyes closed, lips barely moving. You don't even pretend to be cool. You say, "Yeah," like your heart isn't hammering through your ribs. Your school offers college prep nights, but neither of you go. You talk about moving to Chicago, renting some crummy apartment with stained carpets and rooftop views. Rachel wants to study literature. You just want to be wherever she is. You think love might actually be this simple. Then, life shows up with a baseball bat. Her dad gets a transfer to Oregon. Some corporate thing with a timeline so short it might as well be teleportation. She tells you over strawberry milkshakes at Wally's Diner, and you try not to cry into your fries. You make all the big promises, letters every week, long-distance phone calls, saving up to visit her in winter. She gives you a picture of herself. On that dock, signed on the back, "Don't forget me ever." You kiss for the first time the night before she leaves. You don't remember who leaned in first, just that the world blurred around her eyelashes. It's like kissing a ghost you haven't lost yet. The next morning, you bike to the train station. Her suitcase is too heavy, her eyes too red, and the platform too short to fit everything you need to say. When the train pulls away, you raise your hand even though she can't see it. Historians still argue whether the 1970s were the last innocent decade in America, before Watergate and disco and Reaganomics kicked everyone in the knees. But for you, innocence ended the second that train left the station. "You write letters," she replies. For a while, they come every Tuesday, like clockwork, like church bells. But life gets noisy. Your uncle has a stroke, and you're working overtime at the shop. Her school loads up the homework. Replies stretch from 7 days to 2 weeks, then 3. One day, a letter arrives that says, "I think maybe we're both meant to grow in our own ways right now." You read it 3 times before realizing that's code for goodbye. You don't blame her, not really. But you also never throw away her photo. It stays folded in your wallet, right behind your Social Security card and that wrinkled receipt from when you bought her a ring pop at the county fair. That summer becomes the kind of memory you don't Talk about unless someone's had 3 glasses of wine and asks if you've ever really been in love. You tell yourself it was puppy love. But sometimes, on nights like this, when the sky is the same color as that evening on the dock and the cicadas are buzzing like background static, you wonder what might have happened if her train never came. And somewhere, tucked deep in your sock drawer, beneath a tangle of concert ticket stubs and expired library cards, is a cassette tape labeled Our Songs. You haven't played it in decades, but it's still there, just in case. You're 30 now, maybe 31. Life has done what it does best. It's moved on, fast and without mercy. You've got a job at an auto shop now. Not your uncle's anymore. He passed in '82, but your own place, Bailey's Garage. Nice ring to it. You've even got the matching work shirts with your name stitched over the heart. The irony never escapes you. Your hair's a little thinner, your jeans a little tighter. There's a ring on your finger that belongs to someone who loves you but doesn't quite see all the corners of you. And you've got a baby boy who cries like he's mad at the whole world, which honestly, you admire a little. And still, every so often, when your wife isn't looking and the baby's finally asleep, you open that drawer, the one in your desk at home. Not for bills or warranties or user manuals. No. This drawer is reserved for ghosts. Inside, there's a folded stack of old paper. Letters, hers, postmarked Oregon mostly, smudged with time. Some of them torn open like you couldn't bear the space between the words and needed to rip them straight out of the envelope. And then there's one you wrote but never mailed. You don't even remember what year you wrote it. Maybe 85? 86? You just finished working on a busted transmission and something in the song on the radio hit you sideways. Maybe it was Still the One by Orleans. Maybe it was just guilt. So you sat down at the kitchen table, pen in hand, and wrote, "Rachel, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't even know if this address is still yours, but I want you to know. I never really stopped wondering what it would have been like. I hope you're happy. Tom." Simple, bare, honest, which is probably why you never sent it. But one day after your second beer and a particularly lonely Tuesday, you do. You fold it neatly, scribble the address you remember from one of her letters, and drop it in the big blue mailbox outside the post office. Then you wait. 3 weeks go by, then 5. No letter, no call, no smoke signal. You tell yourself she's moved. You tell yourself she forgot. You tell yourself anything to quiet the gnawing in your gut that maybe, just maybe, she didn't want to remember. One day a letter returns. A sharp-cornered white envelope with red ink scrawled across the front. Return to sender. No forwarding address. You don't open it. Just drop it in the same drawer with the others and forget to forget it. Now here's where things get a little weird. Because while you were mourning that dead-end envelope 2,000 miles away in a quiet Portland suburb, Rachel's mother was doing some late summer cleaning. She found an old forwarding card, something that slipped between cookbooks and family calendars. On it, your name, your handwriting, and the letter. It had made it, after all, just to the wrong recipient. She didn't tell Rachel. Historians still argue whether silence is mercy or sabotage. In this case, it was both. Instead of mailing it forward, Rachel's mother slid it into a box marked "Ours Stuff" in permanent marker and tucked it behind the linen closet, where it sat for 35 years. Meanwhile, you went on. You raised your boy. You coached his little league team. You got divorced in '96, amicably, if that word can really apply to two people dividing up photo albums and barbecue utensils. You bought a used motorcycle in a minor midlife crisis, but never actually rode it further than the diner off Route 12. Your joints complained too much. But here's what you did do. You started writing. At first, just for yourself. Then for a small blog. Then for a steadily growing list of email subscribers who seemed to like your meandering reflections about old songs, rusted tools, and women who got away. You titled it, Dockside Thoughts, which was corny, yes, but it was yours. Every Sunday, like clockwork, you posted something new. Sometimes it was about the price of spark plugs. Sometimes it was about how people don't write love letters anymore. Once, just once, you posted about Rachel. You didn't use her name. You just wrote, "There's a girl I knew once, long ago. She smelled like peppermint chapstick and read poetry to bugs. If she's out there, I hope she knows I still think of her." Every time I hear the opening chords of "Hey Jude," that post got shared and reshared. It ended up on Facebook, in newsletters, even in a college creative writing class syllabus, apparently. And wouldn't you know it, Rachel saw it. She was 70 miles south in Ashland, sipping tea with a neighbor who forwarded it with a subject line that said, "Is this you?" She read it once, then twice, then went to her garage and pulled down a dusty box labeled "Ours Stuff." Inside, a letter, unopened, faded, addressed to her. From you, the one you thought never reached her. Her hands shook, and for the first time, in decades, Rachel Martin wept. You, of course, had no idea. Until one Tuesday morning, you opened your mailbox to find a single cream-colored envelope. No return address. Just your name, written in handwriting that looked exactly like memory. Your thumb hesitates over the seal. It's been decades, but your body knows this handwriting like it knows the shape of your house keys. Deep muscle memory carved by longing. You don't open it right away. Instead, you make a cup of coffee. Sit at the kitchen table where the sun pools through the window just right, and take a deep breath like you're about to meet yourself at 17 again. Then you peel back the flap. "Tom, I found your blog. I wasn't looking for you, but maybe I was. That letter, the one you sent me in the 80s, I only got it 2 days ago. It was buried in my mother's closet. I think she meant well, but maybe didn't want to stir up old ghosts. Anyway, reading it felt like time folded in on itself. Like the dock was still warm beneath my back and you were humming along to Mrs. Robinson beside me. You read the whole thing 3 times before realizing your coffee's gone cold. You blink, and the years peel away like old wallpaper. She left a phone number. You call it that same night, after exactly 4 false starts and 1 stiff drink. She picks up on the second ring. "Tom," she says, her voice older, softer, weathered silk. "Rachel," you reply, suddenly 17 again. You talk for 3 hours. It starts with polite catch-up, jobs, marriages, kids. She never had any. Pets. That awful summer in 1993 when the sun wouldn't quit. Then she asks about the lake. If it's still there. If the dock is gone. You tell her yes and no, and maybe. You haven't been back since the Reagan administration. And then, silence, a long, quiet pause with static breathing on both ends. "Always thought," she says finally, "that if you'd come after me, I would have stayed." You don't answer, because she's right. It stings, but not in a cruel way. More like iodine, cleaning out something infected long ago. You talk again the next night, and the next. She sends you a photo of herself sitting on a bench under a giant oak tree. Her hair's still braided, just shorter. She wears readers now, still keeps a paperback in her purse. A week later, she drives up. Not flies, drives. In her old station wagon. It takes her 2 days, but she says she preferred the silence to airport terminals. You meet at Wally's Diner, which is now a barbecue joint that serves sushi for some godless reason. She looks at you like a puzzle she never quite solved. You reach for her hand without even thinking. And she lets you. You spend the weekend doing things you should have done in your 20s. You walk the lake. The dock's gone, but the water remembers. You both agree it feels warmer now. But maybe that's just nostalgia lying sweetly as it often does. At night, you sit on the porch with her watching the stars. She falls asleep in the rocking chair. You cover her with a blanket and watch the rise and fall of her breathing. You don't say it out loud, but it feels like time has finally said, sorry. Then, Sunday morning, she makes coffee and slides. A small manila envelope across the table. "What's this?" you ask. "Something I should have told you right away." Inside, there's a medical bracelet and a hospital pamphlet. You skim the words Stage 4 and non-operable and experimental treatment. The air leaves the room like someone opened a hatch in your chest. She doesn't cry. Not really. Just shrugs and says, "I'm not dying today." You grip the edge of the table like it's the only solid thing left in the world. Historians still argue whether love's greatest gift is presence or endurance, whether staying beside someone as they fade is more intimate than watching them bloom. You don't care about the debate. You just take her hand and say, "Okay, what do you need?" That week, you build a garden box together. She plants basil and tomatoes. You paint it mint green. Every night she stays. You write a little more in the notebook she brought you. Old stories, bits of dialogue, weird recipes she swears are family secrets. One night, she pulls out a tape recorder. "You remember these?" She laughs. She hits record and says, "Okay, tell me about the time you almost crashed your bike trying to impress me." You do. And then she tells you about the first time she knew she loved you. Turns out, it was the day you gave her your last Twinkie. You don't remember that, but she does. A quirky tidbit, Twinkies were originally banana-flavored. During World War II, bananas were rationed, so the recipe changed to vanilla cream. Rachel tells you this like it's the most profound thing in the world. And honestly, in that moment, it is. By the third week, you both know it's not remission. You see it in her eyes, in the way she moves slower each morning, in the way her voice gets quieter by the hour. You make a deal. No hospitals, no tubes, no fluorescent lights, just porches and lake walks and music from that old cassette she found in her things. Yes, that cassette. The one labeled Our Songs. She kept it too. You play Let It Be while holding her hand in bed. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't need to. That night, you dream of the lake again, and for once, she's already there. Barefoot, smiling, braid undone, waiting. The morning sun doesn't rise any differently. The birds still shout their nonsense from the trees. Somewhere down the street, someone starts a lawnmower far too early, but the house feels quieter. Still, you know before you even open your eyes, she's gone. Her hand is still resting in yours, fingers cool but not stiff. Her face, peaceful, soft, like someone who finally set down a heavy bag. You stay there for a while. No big scene, no sobbing into the mattress, just breathing, just being. You think about all the ways people talk about death, passing on, crossing over, going home. Rachel used to say she hoped it felt like turning a page in a good book. You never understood that before. Now maybe you do. You get up, eventually. Call the hospice nurse as agreed. Fill out forms. Sign your name more times than seems necessary. Then, you sit at the porch, where she always liked to drink her tea, and watch the clouds like they were characters in a play. You sip from her mug. Peppermint, of course. And that's when you remember. The tape recorder. You find it in the drawer by the bed, the last tape still inside, labeled in her careful hand. For Tom, you press play. Her voice crackles to life, lighter than air. "Hey, dummy," she starts. You laugh. Typical Rachel. If you're hearing this, I've probably peaced out. Sorry, but also, no regrets. You were the love of my life. Even when you weren't around, you were still there. In books I read, in songs I heard, in the way I always ordered pie even though I never finished it. She pauses. You hear a little cough. "I want you to know. I read all your blog posts, every single one, even the one about accidentally gluing your hand to a carburetor." You groan. "You weren't supposed to see that one," you whisper. She continues. "I wrote letters too, you know. I never sent them. Thought maybe you'd moved on. Guess we were both a little dumb. But here's the thing. None of that matters now. We found our way back, and that's the only part I'll carry with me. Another pause. Longer this time. Don't stop writing, okay? Keep telling stories. About us. About everything. People need to remember that it's never too late for something good. The tape ends with static. You don't rewind it. Just place it back in the drawer. Let it rest. Over the next few weeks, the world continues turning in its usual chaotic, ridiculous way. You plan a small service, just a bench by the lake, a few close friends, some wildflower she once pointed to and called unkillable. You spread her ashes right where the dock used to be. The water swallows them without ceremony, as if it had been waiting. There's a strange comfort in routine. You mow the lawn, you tinker in the garage, you try and fail to make her peppermint tea the right way, and you write, "Oh, do you write?" Your blog becomes something else entirely. Not bigger necessarily, but deeper. You tell stories about Rachel, about your youth, about regret and luck and the cosmic joke that is timing. One post goes viral. It's called "The Girl Who Waited Twice." In it, you describe the moment she pulled up in that beat-up station wagon. You write, "She had a dandelion in her hair and a smile that said, 'Don't you dare mess this up again.'" Readers flood the comments. Thousands. Some share their own lost loves. Others promise to call someone they haven't spoken to in years. One woman says, "I'm buying a plane ticket tomorrow. Wish me luck." You reply, "Go. Time doesn't wait, but love might." Historians still argue whether stories shape memory, or just preserve it. You say both. You've lived both. One night, months later, you're on the porch again. Autumn this time. Leaves rattling like soft applause across the yard. A young woman pulls up in a rental car, late 20s. Big coat, tearful eyes. She introduces herself. "I'm Rachel's niece," she says. "She told me about you. Said if I ever needed to remember what real love looked like, to come find you." You sit together. Talk late. She asks about Rachel's laugh. You do your best impression. You both cry a little. Then laugh because you're crying. Then cry again because you're laughing. It's a whole thing. She hands you a small wooden box before she leaves. Inside, another tape. This one labeled simply, "Songs." The first track? "Hey Jude." Of course, the quirky tidbit, the original. Lyrics to "Hey Jude" were "Hey Jules," written by Paul McCartney to comfort John Lennon's son during his parents' divorce. Rachel loved that story. You sit back, hit play, and let the Beatles carry you down memory lane. You still sleep, on one side of the bed. Still leave space on the porch swing. Still find peppermint wrappers in weird places. She's gone. But also, she's everywhere. In your stories. In your readers' hearts. In the kid who emailed you last week saying he asked his high school crush out because of your blog. You replied, "Tell her you saved her a Twinkie. Trust me, the world didn't stop." But yours shifted, gently, like a sail catching the wind. Spring returns slowly, with shy green shoots peeking through the last frost, and the sun deciding, reluctantly, that it's time to show up a little earlier. You still walk to the lake most mornings. It's never the same twice. Sometimes it's glassy, a perfect mirror of the sky. Sometimes it's all ripples and wind, like someone whispering secrets just below the surface. Either way, it feels like she's there. Not watching exactly, but near. Present in the absence. One morning, you bring a folding chair, a journal, and the tape recorder. The tape is old. The sound warbles, but her voice is still clear enough to rattle your ribcage. "I hope you're sitting under that big tree," she says. "I hope you remembered sunscreen, and that dumb hat you always pretend isn't dorky." You chuckle, adjusting said hat. She continues, "If I could change anything, I'd still pick the same book, the same lake, the same boy, even if the middle got lost for a while. even if the ending came too fast. You write that down, word for word. That afternoon, you begin drafting the letter you'll leave behind someday. You don't know who it's for yet. Maybe a great niece. Maybe a stranger who finds your blog in 2075. But you write it anyway, because Rachel was right. Stories are how we time travel, and time is wild. For example, did you know Einstein once said time isn't a straight line, but more like a loaf of bread? All moments exist at once, past, present, future, stacked like slices. Historians still argue whether that was poetry or physics. You don't care. You just like the idea that somewhere in some invisible slice, you're still holding her hand on that dock. You get letters now. Lots of them. People send you mixtapes, handwritten confessions. One man mails you a single Twinkie with a note. She said it was the good kind. And then one day, you get an email from someone who says, "I think you were my mom's first love. Her name is Lily." She explains she found your blog after her mother passed away, that Rachel had told her stories, had shown her letters, had said, "You might want to meet the man who once saved me without even knowing it." You freeze. You read the message 3 times. Then you write back, asking if she'd like to meet. Lily arrives 2 weeks later. She's in her early 40s, same eyes. Brighter laugh, wears a bracelet with tiny charms, books, a cassette, a leaf. She tells you Rachel never told her the full truth, just the good parts. But deep down, she always knew. You walk the lake together. She asks about the stories. You offer the originals. She reads one out loud. It's the one about Rachel tripping on a root and knocking both of you into the water. You'd forgotten about that. Lily doesn't. She says, "She told me that's the moment she realized you'd never let her fall alone. You stop walking. The air is soft. The wind smells like mint." You nod, because yeah, that sounds right. A few months later, you get an offer from a small publishing house. They want to turn your blog into a book, The Girl Who Waited Twice. You hesitate, then say yes, not for the sales, not for the vanity, for the shelf, because Rachel once said, "A love story isn't real until it lives between covers." So you print it. Hardback. First page is a dedication for R, who waited, wandered, and returned. Twice. You were never late. You were just on time for me. The wind down is quiet. You don't do book tours. You don't chase interviews. But the Yao letters keep coming. So do the young visitors. People who say things like, "I didn't believe in second chances until I read yours." You always answer, sometimes with just one line, "It's never too late for something good." You keep walking the lake. Keep writing. Keep laughing when someone brings up Twinkies. The porch is still there. So is the chair. So is the tape recorder. Sometimes you press play just to hear her say your name, and sometimes, when the moon is big and the wind is soft, you swear you hear her humming, "Let It Be." You hum along, because you know the words by heart. The porch is quiet tonight. The moon hangs low, painting the world in silver. A soft breeze rustles the trees, and the lake in the distance catches just enough starlight to glisten like memory. You settle deeper into the chair, feeling its familiar creak beneath you. The air smells like cedar and old books. It's the kind of night that asks nothing of you, just presence. You exhale slowly. Let your thoughts soften. Let the stories settle into your bones. The ones you lived, the ones you loved, the ones that found their endings, and the ones that just keep echoing softly in the spaces between. You don't need to chase the past. You've held it. Let it hold you back. Then let it carry you forward again. Somewhere inside you, Rachel's voice still exists, not just in tape, not just in words, but in the quiet rhythm of every step toward healing. You listen, and in that hush, in that deep stillness where only memory and breath remain, you smile. You're okay. You're still here. And maybe, just maybe, Someone's. Waiting for you, too. Now rest, old soul. Let the night carry you gently. Let your story sleep with you. And let your dreams write what comes next.